Welcome to How to Tell Someone. I'm your host, Tonya Pieske. Before we get started, I encourage you to check the show notes. That's where you'll find content warnings. Guests on How to Tell Someone are telling vulnerable, personal stories that sometimes contain themes that may be difficult for some listeners, so take care while listening. You want to wake up. This story comes from ANNALISE.
AJ and I met around 2013 when we were both 19 years old, and our meeting was like a pretty perfect meet cute. We met on the 4th of July when I was in California for an internship, a summer internship, and yeah, his mom was dating my cousin at the time, and I was hanging out with my cousin a lot. My cousin is like my dad's age, so it's not as weird as it could sound. But anyway, I was hanging out with my cousin a lot that summer. He had a girlfriend, and I had met his girlfriend multiple times, and she was super lovely, and multiple times she would tell me like, oh, I have a son your age, you guys should meet, and we hadn't, and so I just assumed he was like some antisocial weirdo. But then on the 4th of July, Julie got a little too drunk and still wanted to see her boyfriend, and so AJ drove her to my cousin's house where we were all hanging out for the holiday, and yeah, we just kind of hit it off. He asked me a lot about Seattle because he was super into music and Nirvana and had kind of this just like kind of a fascination with Seattle, and throughout that summer we just kept talking. After meeting him, was like, oh, I'm gonna hang out with my cousin as much as possible because he's with his girlfriend and maybe I'll see AJ more. So yeah, we just kind of had this like summer romance, and I remember thinking at the time like, oh, well, I'm a freshman in college, like I'm not gonna really entertain a long distance relationship. When I was in high school, I really wanted to have like a hoe phase and really slut it up. And so it was just like not crossing my mind. But we had so much in common, and yeah, just like really clicked in the beginning, and stayed in touch. I finished up my internship and went back to school in Seattle, and we decided to do long distance. And so while I was still in school, we did long distance for about 2 years, which I actually highly recommend long distance relationships, as long as there's some sort of end goal to eventually reunite, because we had a lot of like solid just get to know you time, and it wasn't like we were just hot and heavy and like focused on a physical connection. We really were just getting to know each other, and obviously there was a lot of trust involved because we were two young people in a long distance relationship, and that never really made me worried. Like I was never worried about AJ cheating on me or anything like that, and I assume he felt the same way, or else he would, I don't know, would have expressed it, I like to think. We eventually decided to move in together once I had finished college, and he moved up to Seattle. We just kind of like started our little adult life living in Seattle. He worked full time. I had also gotten a full-time job right after college. We were really good to each other. We loved going to concerts together. He started a band in Seattle, and I was like super excited to support that. 10 years, a whole decade. We were together for a decade. Even from the very beginning of our relationship, AJ knew that I was bisexual, which is something I had known since middle school, but definitely something that made me kind of fall for AJ from the beginning was when one of our first conversations was, he simply asked like, oh, are you seeing anybody? Rather than saying like, oh, do you have a boyfriend? And for some reason, just leaving it so open-ended, like really got me. He was always very accepting of it, which was cool. I hadn't really had a chance to really explore my identity before meeting him. You know, we met so young. And even though I had identified in middle school, I had kind of a like cliche girl on girl heartbreak at the time with someone who I'm still really close with, which is really funny. So like after having that experience at like a super young age, I just hadn't explored anything like that. And then I met AJ. We just kind of defaulted to monogamy. I think definitely like open relationships and polyamory were not as much part of like relationship conversation in 2013 as they are now. And I kind of wish they were, because maybe I would have taken some time to really define our relationship when we were starting. But, you know, as we deepened our relationship and really kind of like settled into our lives, it became clear to me that I felt like I was missing out. Like I was gaining more queer friends in Seattle and hearing about their experiences. And, you know, I think there's a lot of mental games that come with being bisexual. I think regardless of like your gender identity, there's a lot of erasure. And so, yeah, I started developing a lot of feelings of like, I'm not allowed to take up queer spaces. I'm not allowed to say these things because I'm in this straight appearing relationship. And that started to really mess with me. I want to say we had been together at least 4 years, and we had shared 2 apartments at this point together, and I just worked up the courage to ask AJ if he would be willing to open our relationship. Working myself up to that was terrifying. He grew up Catholic and had some of his own trauma with relationship stuff just growing up. And so I knew that it was going to be a hard thing for him to hear. Early on, he established like the fantasy of our relationship, and part of that fantasy was being completely devoted to one another, and in a way that can be super romantic, but it was just going to make this conversation very difficult. I worked up the nerve, and I tried to kind of explain my feelings of like, I love you. This isn't something that I want to do because I'm like bored or I don't see a future with you, but I feel like I'm like missing out on part of my life. And I want to still be with you. I want a future with you. And I want to try to explore this. Can we do that? And to his credit, he like really thought about it. He took a week to ruminate and think about it. And honestly, that week was awful because I was like walking on eggshells. He was a little bit cold to me for that week. And so I was super scared. I was like, oh, this is it. Like, he's going to say, you're disgusting and I want to end our relationship. That's not how that conversation turned out, thankfully. But he did say, like, I can't do that. That's not a relationship model that I can do. And I accepted it. There was nothing wrong with our relationship. So I didn't feel like I should or needed to like end things just because of this, right? Like, to be perfectly blunt, like we had a very good sex life. I didn't feel like I was like missing out on things. But at the same time, I was still dealing with this kind of like queer imposter syndrome. But I accepted it. We moved on. But the feeling never really went away. It would ebb and flow. Like there would be times where we were just like so good between the two of us and things were going really well for us. It would just kind of be a little quiet hum. And then, you know, there would be other times where it was all I could think about. June, Pride Month, was always really hard for me because I was like, I want to go do all these things. I want to feel like I'm part of a queer scene, a queer community, but I'm afraid of being judged because of my straight cis boyfriend and just not having that much experience and just all the things. So I was wrestling with the feelings all the time. I asked multiple times if we could open our relationship, and every time AJ would say no. And I do, you know, I think even then I knew, like, every time I bring this up, I think a little part of AJ dies or maybe questions if he wants this long term. So eventually I stopped asking. Every time we had the conversation and it was a no, I don't know, it chipped away at me in some way, for sure. Like, I feel like my feeling every time we would end that conversation and he would say no, and, you know, I guess my thoughts were always like, why can't you love me enough to even try? You know, just even see what it feels like. And even looking, now that I am dating, it's not like these things happen fast, you know? And I think just reflecting, like, if he had said, okay, yes, let's give it a try with like certain boundaries, right? Like, and I've, at least in 2 or 3 of those conversations, I said, like, I'm willing to hear about any boundaries you have, like whether, because there's so many ways that relationships can make these things work. And so I was always very open to that. And so, yeah, it did hurt of just like, you can't even try. Like, this is something that plagues me, honestly. This is something that takes up my brain space, that makes me feel all kinds of things, and you can't even try a little bit. There was definitely conversations where, yeah, I felt like the mentality came down to a moral thing. And that's why I cite the Catholicism of it all, because I think regardless of how he had evolved sort of past a belief system or like believing in or going to church, I still think that sort of right and wrong of life was something that he really held on to. And, you know, even we had friends who were in like thruples or open, and he was kind of judgmental of them. We did have friends who were really, like, he met them and they were a gay couple, and then throughout sort of like their friendship with AJ had opened up and had a throuple, and we like had drinks with the 3 of them. And I think he like had mixed feelings about that, just like, yeah, like, oh well, how great can a couple be if they're allowing a third person? I think he's just very monogamous. To me, it's weird. That's a weird hill to die on, monogamy. If you just want to be with one person, that person just wants to be with you, love that for you. But it's a weird hill to die on when you're also saying other things like, you're the light of my life, my only goal is to make you happy, things like that. Yeah. Throughout our relationship, I always felt like AJ was holding back what his actual feelings were about something and like his why. And for me, just in kind of like all aspects of my life, I need the why. The why helps me understand. It helps me get on that level. And I feel like I'm a pretty accepting person. I mean, obviously, I took several of these conversations and rolled with it because I loved this guy. And I kind of thought everything else about our relationship outweighed having a queer experience, right? Even if I did get to like hook up with somebody of the same gender, it could be awful, you know, like it could be terrible. They could be mean afterwards and stuff like that. So there was also a lot of fear for me of just like, well, I have a good thing. There was an aspect of safety to our relationship as well. There was a trip we took to San Francisco. He had asked me like my ring size and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's exciting. And then he, rather than like proposing to me, I found out that that wasn't going to happen because I came home and he had gotten me like these little gifts. He was a gifter. And in the gifts was like this ring, and it wasn't an engagement ring. It was just a ring. I forget exactly how we got on the topic, but at one point I was like, yeah, I just feel really silly because I thought you were going to propose to me and I was all excited. And now it's obvious that that's not happening. And I feel really foolish and kind of like wondering where we're at then. And he was honest with me and said like, well, we had just had another conversation about opening the relationship and I wasn't sure where you were at. So like, I've taken some more time to wait to propose to, you know, make sure this is what we both want. And so in that moment, I was like, well, fuck, now it's kind of in my head, it was being kind of like hung over me now of like, well, I'm not sure if you're going to leave me for some lady, so I'm not proposing. And, you know, that again, that's not exactly what he said, but in that moment, I felt like, okay, I really have to show him, like, I am dedicated to you. This is what I want. And I really was in a mind space at that time and, like, of moving on, of like, okay, I don't need to be in a relation, or I don't need to be in an open relationship. Quote unquote, exploring my identity is not as important to me because at that point I had surrounded myself with more queer people and I was feeling more of a part of a community, and I was having conversations with myself of like, well, I don't need to have sex with another queer person to validate myself. I can feel valid in where I'm at right now and just be happy in this good relationship. From that point on, that was my mindset. But of course, those feelings didn't just go away. I think I was really trying to kind of like psychologically trick myself and be like, no, you are fine with this. You are okay. You do feel valid. I think AJ from that San Francisco trip on was like kind of stepped up his allyship, so to speak. Like he celebrated my bisexuality a lot. He would get me pride flag kind of colored stuff and, you know, share posts. And he was very supportive. I guess to a degree it was a little frustrating, but at the same time, like, I think because I was coaching myself of like, this is fine, this is what I want, I was just like, I'm so glad to have such a supportive partner, because I at the same time was also very aware of other women in my same position who had not supportive partners, or even like gross partners who were like, oh great, like let's get a threesome on the calendar and stuff like that. So I was like thankful to have somebody who was supportive but not creepy. It just kind of felt like, oh, so you're very happy to be like this ally in public, and you're very fine with me being out publicly, but as far as like anything that could happen privately, that's off the table. It definitely was a little bit confusing, but I just kind of rolled with it and was like, happy to be here kind of vibes. I did get to a point where I felt very secure in my identity and felt like I can be a bisexual person in a hetero appearing relationship. But I was also like saying things to other people and to AJ of like, no, you are in a queer relationship. Just because we are two like straight appearing people doesn't mean this is a straight relationship. Like, you are in a relationship with a queer person, so this is a queer relationship. Like, congrats to you. And I think he enjoyed that aspect of it too, you know? By the time we got actually engaged, I can say I was confidently like, it was a non-issue for me. I don't need to be in an open relationship. I will get by every pride knowing that I'm okay in who I am, and you know, I can have lots of queer friendships and read all the queer literature and watch all the shows, and that'll just be good enough for me. We got engaged in 2022, or I could be getting the dates wrong, but there was like a couple years, and like a couple of really good years, despite like pandemic stuff, and like AJ got laid off during the pandemic, and then I quit my job because it was awful and tearing me apart during the pandemic. And so like there was a lot of like trauma bonding to kind of like overshadow a lot of the other stuff going on, and it definitely aided in the like, well, I would rather be with this person who I deeply trust and love than go chance it on my own while everybody's fucking dying and getting sick. Another aspect of our relationship is we were super, super public as far as like posting pictures of each other all the time. Anytime we went on a trip or just like a fun walk, we had some photo together. And we're kind of an it couple amongst our friends, for lack of a better term. Like, we had a lot of people really championing our relationship, and maybe like hindsight, kind of a weird way. You are couple goals. People from different parts of our lives are saying these things to us, and I definitely got high off of that for sure, and I know he did too. And so I think, yeah, that part of it definitely complicated everything. And yeah, how could you throw that away? And I do remember, you know, talking to some of my friends. I remember several of them being like, you know, oh, but you two will figure it out. You're so great. It'll be fine. It did feel a little lonely. I will just say, talking it out with anybody did not help. And I to some degree it can't, right? Like, I'm the only one who can decide what this will mean for me, or like what the next best step is. But, you know, even my therapist was just kind of like, you're just gonna have to decide like what is most important to you. And yeah, and all these factors just kept coming back down to like, well, I trust AJ. You know, he makes me feel safe. He makes me happy for most of the time, and yeah, and obviously other people think it's really good because we get so much good feedback. So why would I give that up to be alone because I wanted to have sex with somebody who wasn't my straight cis partner? And like when I said it like that to myself, I was just like, yeah, that sounds fucking dumb. That's so silly. And I do a lot of thinking about it now that I am like single and quote unquote alone. It's like, people are really terrified of this, and they will go through their whole lives being miserable in so many ways just to say that they are not alone. Fast forwarding a little bit, that's kind of where I found myself. I was at a place where I was accepting it. We were engaged, and I was excited to be married to AJ, and that was going to be my future. But then all this other stuff kind of crept in. We had moved into my parents' house because he was still jobless, and I was unemployed because I had quit a toxic job. And like our lease was ending, and it was just like, I don't know what's going to happen, so let's move in with my parents where they, you know, they won't charge us rent, and we'll figure out kind of like what the next step is. We'll save up for this wedding that now is going to come up. After we moved in, with a lot of stuff going on, pandemic still happening, I was just getting more and more depressed. I had started taking Lexapro at the lowest dose late 2019 or early 2020. Like, I can't remember if I had talked to my therapist about getting on medication because of like pandemic stuff and everything feeling so bad and scary, or if it was right before, but I had started Lexapro right around that time. And then as things kind of got progressively worse in like my own personal life and just in the world in general, I upped my dosage quite a bit. And eventually I was at the highest dosage that you can be. I was just feeling so goddamn depressed about living with my parents and feeling like a loser, because that was something, you know, completely outside of my relationship. Something I had always kind of like held on to after graduating from college and like being independent was like, oh, I didn't have to move back in with my parents. And then here I was living with my dad, and I was really feeling a type of way about that. I was in a job that felt really directionless and just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I was working from home completely for like the very first time. And I've since realized like, I'm not someone who can really work from home all the time and be motivated, especially when the world is burning down around me, or it appears that way. So I was just kind of like going into a deeper hole and just feeling just really like numb and detached from myself, from just my existence as a person. And it started taking a toll on my relationships. When I think about it, I always just say I was really numb and just kind of like going through days not really checked in any sort of way, and just feeling just so down on myself, because I think all of the sort of status markers I had for myself up to that point, I wasn't meeting any of those marks. I wasn't doing well in my job. I had kind of been like a girl boss up until that point, or, you know, an aspiring girl boss. So not feeling like super confident or achieved in my job was weighing on me. The fact that I was living with my parents was weighing on me. I was also like gaining a lot of weight and just like feeling super inactive. So that was a factor. And AJ was also like becoming unhappy. Definitely, I internalized a lot of that. Like, oh, I have dragged us down. I have brought us to this point where we are at our lowest and we don't get to do the things we love as much. And just like we have, you know, we're living with my parents. That just was like a huge weight over everything. And like, I love my parents, and it was not the worst situation in the world, but at the same time, my parents are a little judgmental and are not afraid of saying kind of fucked up shit. So, you know, I know it wasn't really the best environment for AJ either. It absolutely felt like I was drowning, and like losing half of a workday because I was just crying and just feeling so adrift. So like, what is going on? I should be excited about planning this wedding. I should be, you know, I had a cool job at that point with a lot of like creative opportunity, but I just wasn't feeling it. And yeah, I was drowning in like my own vomit, essentially, it felt like. And I really wasn't putting together that it could be the medication I was taking that has side effects about feeling worse, even though it's supposed to treat depression. And I remember thinking like, I can't start a marriage like this, you know? Because I felt so shitty about myself, I'm sure I was also thinking about external stuff too, and I was thinking about like promises AJ and I were trying to make for each other. For example, you know, something earlier on in our relationship I had expressed to AJ was that I wanted him to have some sort of like career, and I was always open to like what that could be, but I come up from a family where like college was some sort of secondary education is a requirement. If you're not going to go to college, you need to get some sort of like trade degree, or like you got to do something. And I kind of grew up with a bias of like people got to do something. And AJ, you know, had a lot of really solid jobs, but I always wanted him to be able to do something that gave him more work benefits, like a 401k and insurance and all that good stuff that you need to kind of have some stability, or maybe not need, but it helps. And so I was, you know, in this dark drowning period, I was realizing like those things weren't happening, and you know, things like us just trying to hold each other accountable to like be more physically active weren't really happening either. And I was just like, wow. And again, I don't know if I can start a marriage like this. And I remember at some point, maybe it was Savage Love, maybe it was a different podcast, but somebody said something like, if you're unhappy with something, or like, yeah, if you're unhappy in a relationship, you can't just like wait for it to change, or like it's not going to change necessarily. Like if you're not getting the signs, it's not just going to change or get better. It'll just stay the same. And so I remember in that moment being like, if it just stays the same as it is right now, I will kill myself. Like I will want to die. And that's an awful way to start a marriage. While this is happening in my life, my mom is also ending her marriage with my stepdad, who I didn't like, who also made a lot of promises to my mom that he never fulfilled. And I was just kind of like seeing the writing on the wall, essentially being like, oh shit, like I can't be in a marriage like my mom's, where you're just holding on hope for something to change and having these conversations and, you know, coming from a place of love and saying, I need this and I need this and I love you and I want to help you and work on it. And then seeing sort of nothing come from that. I remember having talks with AJ that weren't, you know, let's open the relationship talks, but I was trying to express how I was feeling. Not so much the like depression. I think I was still kind of like trying to work that out on my own. But I was trying to express to him, like, I feel really detached from you. Like, I don't feel like we're in like engagement bliss right now. Like, I feel detached. I feel like I don't know what's going on your mind. I don't know what's going on in your heart. I just know I'm stewing in like loneliness once again, and I don't know where you're at with anything. And we're supposed to be planning a wedding. This is supposed to be fun. You know, this is supposed to be exciting. I remember AJ kind of being responsive to at least one of those conversations and being like, oh, well, you know, let's work on it. And at least he was like trying to be reassuring of like, no, like, we're good. I love you. This is, you know, this is what we're doing. This is our path. But at least one of those conversations, I suggested postponing our wedding. At that point, we had like picked a date and booked a venue, but we like weren't sending out invitations or anything like that. We were going to do like an elopement thing in San Francisco City Hall. And then we were going to have like a big party at this really cool property later. We had like put a deposit down on City Hall and maybe that house too. And I suggested like maybe we postpone and just to like save money, one thing, because like this whole job stuff, like, you know, maybe it would be good if we just like didn't rush into this, and like, you know, we're living with my parents, maybe we just like take this time to build up our cash reserves, but also feeling like, you know, yeah, I'm feeling really depressed or, you know, detached. I remember using that word specifically. I feel detached, I feel disconnected, and I'm not sure what's going on, but it doesn't feel like what I should feel like. He got upset at my idea of postponing the wedding. He was like, no, we are not doing that. It was just a straight up no. That did not sit right with me, of like, just no. That definitely hurt. I think it kind of brought me back to other conversations of like, you're not even gonna like be open. You're not even gonna try to like it feels like you're not even trying to see my side, or you're not even really hearing me. That doesn't feel good. That feels really icky. It fucked me up, frankly. That was the point where I was like, it seems like AJ maybe doesn't care about marrying me so much and just really wants to get married. He has a certain idea for what his long-term relationship looks like, and doing something like postponing a wedding when you've already decided this is what you're doing is like not part of that relationship. And so that definitely was kind of a turning point of like, oh, I don't know if he actually even likes me anymore. It doesn't feel like this is like coming from a place of love. I can't start a marriage. I just can't start a marriage that looks so similar to one that I had deemed as not good. And so yeah, that was kind of the place that I got to. We had celebrated AJ's 30th birthday in there. I threw a birthday party for him at our house, and I invited a bunch of our friends from Seattle, and it was really great. And even then, I was just like, look at this community that we have, you know, look at these like friendships and the good times that we have with one another. And like, I have to say goodbye to all that if I say goodbye to AJ too. And yeah, it just, up until the very moment where I said the words, I think we need to break up, it still didn't necessarily feel right. I woke up in the morning. It was like, I think like a Saturday. It was pretty typical for me to wake up semi-early. I'm a bit of an early riser, and AJ is not. So I'd like gotten up and I like made myself coffee. And I just like had gotten to a point where I couldn't go on anymore, feeling like the person I'm engaged to doesn't like me, maybe even hates me. Like that's where I was mentally, was like, oh, I've made so many bad decisions and dragged AJ down, and now he hates me. That was like the tape in my head for like so many months, was like, oh, he hates me, but he wants to be married, so he's gonna go through with it, and then we're gonna be two married people who hate each other. I have to do this now. It's helpful for me to write things down, because then I can feel like I'm like actually expressing what I want to say. Whereas like if I don't in the moment, I'll just get like so flustered and like overwhelmed that I'll say things that like don't really make sense or like may come across the wrong way. And so I remember like jotting all this stuff down in my notes app and just like, and crying and being just like, I still don't even know if this is the right thing. I love AJ. I do want to marry him, but I don't want it to be like this. And I don't want to feel so terrible as I do it. I finished my writing, and then I went downstairs, and he was still sleeping. I got into bed with him, and he, like, you know, just like any other morning, just like pulled me closer to snuggle. And then I really started crying, because I was just like, oh, this is so fucked. This is so fucked. And so I'm just like bawling, and he like wakes up and is obviously kind of like, whoa, what's going on? My partner is just crying in my arms in bed with no context. And, you know, he's like hugging me he's like saying what's wrong, and I can't speak because I know that once I do, like, there's no going back. Once it's out there, it's out there. At one point he said like I hate seeing you like this, and like whatever it is, we'll figure it out. You know, in my head I'm like, we're not gonna figure it out. So in that moment I finally said like, I think we need to break up. He took a moment, and I think, you know, let it wash over him, and then he started crying too. And so for probably a solid minute or two, it was just two of us crying, and I think I was saying like, I'm sorry. I remember saying, my feelings aren't changing, they're not going away. And I think he automatically took that as like the queer stuff of like, I still feel like I need to do this and it's not working out. I was talking about, I feel like shit. I feel disconnected from you. And while I can't remember if I had told him like, it feels like you don't like me, or I'm telling myself that you hate me. That's what I was talking about when I said, my feelings aren't going away. At one point he got up and he said he needed to go call his dad, and I said, you don't want to like talk about it? I kind of had hoped maybe he would want more details, ask why, I don't know, bargain with me, as unhealthy as that may sound, because that's what I had done in other conversations about opening the relationship. And, you know, like, I felt there were times where I like really felt like I was, you know, I fought for it. And I thought in that moment he might fight for it a little bit too, but he was like, what is there to talk about? Those were his exact words. What is there to talk about? It was a gut punch. It was a full stop. It was just a like, oh, yeah, what is there to talk about? Because I spoke the unspeakable words, and that was it, you know, and once I said those things, the illusion was gone. He went to go talk to his dad, and he came back and had a plan for exiting. He came back and was basically like, all right, I'm gonna drive down to California at the end of the week and go stay with my dad, and, you know, that'll be it. And basically we'll have to just, you know, we'll have this whole week together, and then I will be renting a van and driving to California. I remember feeling so awful about it and telling myself, you've done the unthinkable, so now you kind of need to let AJ control the narrative. Or like, I was still very protective of AJ and like his feelings and how other people were going to react to him. And God, even, yeah, now thinking about it, I knew that he was thinking, we're breaking up because she wants to sleep with women. Not talking about it, obviously, but knowing it and then deciding, like, because that's how all of this is going down, AJ gets to say what he wants because I don't want to embarrass him. My parents were kind of like, got it a little bit more, I think, but also not being as like supportive as I wish they were, maybe, because in my family, for better or for worse, we love to cut people off. And by that I mean we're just like, we are very loyal, and so it's not uncommon for like us to close ranks, so to speak, when like something happens. My stepmom has had some tension with like her brothers. And granted, while I've never been close to like my step uncles, it was always a like, oh, well, they're fucking assholes and we never need to talk to them again. And like, just like quick, no questions asked. Whereas, you know, after AJ and I broke up, it wasn't like that. It was, and to some degree, I understand, right? Like, we had been together for a decade. My brothers had a friendship with AJ. My parents had a relationship with AJ and had seen him grow up from 19 to, you know, 30 years old. So I didn't ever want to encourage them to like cut AJ off. I didn't want to be vindictive in any way, and especially because like I also love AJ's family, and I would be so fucking heartbroken if they were all like, if they had all just like blocked me at once or like said mean things. That would have been devastating. So I didn't want to play that game. But it was a kind of like, oh, everyone's so quick to be supportive of each other, but not me, I guess. So I guess I'll just be working on this alone. So we got through that week. He left, I think he left on a Saturday, I want to say. I mean, I feel like that just makes the most sense. But yeah, he just like, he got in the van and drove away, and it was fucking awful. And like, I was obviously crying, but like, so were our other adult roommates. Just go inside. I don't know. Say your goodbyes. I don't know. You're an extra, girl. And then even once he got there, we were still texting all the time and FaceTiming like maybe once a week for a while. That probably wasn't the best approach because I was obviously still in my feelings, and now I had all this time to think. I also found out, like, I think the same week he left, I found out I was getting laid off, or, you know, that things were coming to an end at my job. So it was just like, oh, I'm like doubly fucked. And they, you know, because I'm great at internalizing things and making it about me, I was like, this is karmic punishment. And I'm being told by the universe that I've made a terrible choice, and now my life is really falling apart. It really felt like there was a right and a wrong, and I got it wrong. I just felt awful, and I was telling my family that I felt like I made the wrong decision. And they were all like, you tell AJ how you feel, and he is going to take you back. He loves you so much. He had done a very good job of making it seem like I was his world, and that, yeah, of course he would take me back if I just said it. So yeah, about like 5 weeks after he had left, I sent him this long text. I said things like, it's not about my sexuality. And I think I maybe even said like, I was so mentally numb, and I've like come a long way. I think I started kind of weaning myself off Lexapro at that point. Like, I had started identifying like, maybe this doesn't have to do with my decisions, but more like my brain chemistry and my body and what's happening in my body right now. And so I think I tried to explain at least some of that to him in a text. And I said, like, would you be willing to try again, or, you know, get back together, something like that. His response was maybe, I think he said something like maybe in a year or two, but in the meantime, you need to explore things. You need to know what it's like to be in a not monogamous relationship, and I need to figure things out too. Like something like, I want to work on things here, but maybe in a year or two. And of course, to me, I'm like, there's hope, baby. Maybe in a year or two. I rolled with it, and we kept talking. He couldn't even say, no, I'm actually done. We continue to talk. We continue to like check in and FaceTime. And while this is happening, I'm trying to like maintain sort of like cool girl energy of like, no, we're friends, we're not together, and I want us to be together, but we can talk about like other things as if we're just friends, even though I'm dying inside. Several months later, I was house sitting in Seattle, and he came to Seattle the same time I was house sitting in Seattle, with kind of the like excuse of, oh, well, my best friend Terry is having a birthday party, so I'm going to be in town for that. Let's see each other. And me still being in love and saying maybe in a year or two over and over again, I'm like, yeah, come stay with me at the house I'm sitting. And we shared a bed the whole time, and that fucked me up because I was still in love with the guy. So we ended that Seattle time, and I dropped him off at the airport and was like bawling and saying like, I miss you and I'm still in love with you. And he basically like gave me a shrug, I think he said, give me some time to think. And he like went back to California, and then, I'm interested. So I kept following up being like, so what's the sitch? What's going on? And we FaceTimed at one point, and he literally gave me just like a shrug. But he is willing to have sex with me, so that's interesting. We started talking less and less because I was at least starting to be like, okay, I can't keep holding on to this and putting myself out there if he's just giving me a shrug. He can't even give me a yes or a no, but he always kept an opening. We saw each other again a little bit later. That was also such a mind fuck of an experience too, because we were like both at this party and being like very friendly and, polite, so to speak. Like we could be in conversations together, we could be separate. It felt like, any party that we would have attended as a couple. And even our friends afterwards were like, yeah, that felt so natural. Like it seemed like you two hadn't skipped a beat. I dropped him off at his Airbnb that night, crying, so upset, saying this sucks. And he even said this sucks. And I kissed him on the cheek, and then he kissed me on the lips. And so again, I'm just like, there's hope, maybe in a year or two. That was in May. And then fast forward to August, when I've started a new job. And, we had definitely slowed down communication quite a bit. He was not being as responsive. Something is going on, and he's not going to tell me, but he also probably feels conflicted if he is starting to see somebody and maybe feels like he shouldn't be texting his ex-fiance. But eventually he did text me like early August, like, hey, I started seeing somebody. It was like my first week of work at this new job, and I was like, I can't cry in front of my coworkers, like they barely know me. So I remember going to the bathroom and like having a good cry. It absolutely felt like a second end. It felt like, oh, this is like us breaking up for real. If anything, he did things that kept my hopes up and didn't say clearly either way where he was at, until it was him being in a new relationship. Thankfully, I had my friends to kind of help guard me from internalizing that even further. Like, I'd gone up to see my friends in Seattle like that same weekend after he posted his new girlfriend on Instagram because I was just fucked up. It took them being like, this is fuckboy behavior, for me to be like, oh, you're kind of right, kind of keeping me on the line and not being super clear, literally shrugging, and then whoop, there it is, I have a girlfriend now. And what is kind of funny is like I remember we FaceTimed the week before he sent that text message, and I know he probably thought he was going to tell me in that FaceTime, but he chickened out and couldn't do it. That is kind of when I started to at least put up a little bit more boundaries of internalizing it. Like, obviously it is still a work in progress. I still have to like kind of coach myself through it, but it took external people being like, that's not right. And honestly, everyone was like, at least my friends that I was talking to were very surprised about the series of events, about like him not immediately wanting to take me back, the fuckboyness of it all. They were just like, this is not the AJ we knew and who we thought we were interacting with. And I think I don't want to speak for them, but I think they kind of went through their own little grieving process as well. Like, I think they had an idea of who AJ was, and then through this kind of series of events were like, damn. Jump to today, it's kind of funny because in the couple weeks leading up to this, a few other things have happened that like, oh yeah, we're like done, because for a long time we were still on the same phone plan, and that just recently changed. So he was like still paying me for the phone bill, and at one point I had to text him because he was like super late, and I had to be like, hey, I need your money for the phone bill. I had a box of a bunch of stuff that he left at my parents' house before they moved out that I like put in a corner and didn't want to look at, and I finally shipped that out to him. So like at this point we really don't have any connection, and in some ways that's like comforting. I really don't have to engage with it anymore. But on the other hand, I am still sad, mostly for like the friendship part of it, because he really was like my best friend for a long time. I'm starting stand-up now, and I think that would have been a cool thing to share with him. I guess when it comes to like the future and like kind of what's next, I think in an ideal world we would be able to be friends again, be at a place where like we're both in good relationships and we can hang out. Like, that would be kind of cool. It's kind of like what my mom and my dad have been able to do. And, you know, I think that there's also a very real possibility that we never see each other again. And that makes me sad, but also maybe a little bit relieved. In the aftermath, I'm trying to let go of that piece of feeling like I did something wrong. I'm some sort of like bad guy, or I fall into like really awful bisexual stereotypes about being greedy and, you know, not being able to decide and things like that. It's still a bit of a fight, but I am not internalizing those things as much anymore, and just coming back to like, yeah, I think AJ has a very specific idea of what he wants a relationship to look like and be. And yeah, and I am more open and I am more flexible to all kinds of different relationships. And I think that, yeah, I don't, especially now, like there are so many things that I have identified that I don't necessarily need in a relationship. I will say, when I think about relationships now, I can definitely acknowledge, like, I want to be with somebody who is willing to hear me out, who doesn't get so scared when a vulnerable conversation is happening. Yeah, that's absolutely important to me in whatever next relationship I find myself in, is like, I need to know that that person is willing to have tough conversations. That's what I think good relationships are ones that can rupture and repair. I took my first stand-up class and I got home and I cried tears of joy. With everything, I've tried to maintain a positive outlook, and I've really tried to do well at my new job and put myself out there, meet friends, and just try not to feel so shitty while the world is falling apart. And in addition to my interpersonal stuff, I honestly, for a long time, was convinced that I was just gonna have to grin and bear it for the rest of my life, and not sure if I would feel joy again. I was definitely convinced for a while there that like I'm just gonna have to be like a little sad for the rest of my life. And something about going to this stand-up class where like everyone is just so unconditionally supportive and like feeling confident on stage. Like I'm not nervous when I'm on stage with a microphone in my hand, and that baffles me. And I'm actually enjoy working on writing jokes. Like I wasn't sure that I was going to be able to enjoy doing any sort of task for a real, like, full stop, actually. Like I feel like my brain has been so scrambled and fried over the past couple years, like because of the breakup, but also because of like living through a pandemic and seeing fascism gain popularity, being at the highest dose of Lexapro and not being able to have an orgasm at all, and now being in a place where I'm not on any Lexapro, which is lovely, and like actually enjoying something like a writing process, and then getting to go up on stage and like actually have people laugh and enjoy, and like strangers, right? Yeah, the whole thing has just given me life, frankly, and given me a great outlet. I got to do an open mic last night. I guess that was last night. I did an open mic that was outside of my class, but a bunch of my classmates were there to like cheer me on, and I got to perform in a room with like Portland comics that I have been watching and I admire. Some of them I even like have a big crush on, and they looked me in the eye and told me I was funny. And like I get so overwhelmed with how happy it makes me and how surprised I am that I could feel this happy again. And I cry about it, and it feels so dorky to like cry about stand-up comedy, but it's also maybe a good sign that I should keep doing it. I've had a mindset shift, and like honestly, I have this new outlook where I'm like, well, I should just put my all into it because maybe it'll make for good stand-up material. Like literally my motto for life is do it for the bit, and that applies to everything, and it kind of works. I'm like tricking myself into living a full life.
How do you know when a relationship is over? I think it may be rare for anyone to have complete and total clarity. There's always a bit of risk in the decision to walk away, even when all the signs seem to be pointing toward the exit. When ANNALISE and I recorded their story, it was still a bit raw. They were continuing to process their feelings, which covered the spectrum of guilt and anger and sadness, and still hope for some kind of reconciliation. After everything, they lost their best friend of 10 years. It's been about 9 months since we recorded the episode. I caught ANNALISE recently at a queer comedy open mic they co-hosted in Portland. They did a bit of material about their ex, and when they started by saying they used to be in a relationship with a straight man for 10 years, someone in the audience booed, which made several of us chuckle. ANNALISE laughed too. When they said they're now in their first queer relationship, the audience cheered. It takes courage to step into the unknown, even if we do it on shaky legs and looking over our shoulder. Maybe we just have to take ANNALISE's advice and do it for the bit. You can follow ANNALISE on Instagram to see what they're up to and where they're performing around town, @bad_bananas, and that's with a Z. That's @bad_bananas with a Z. You can also find the link to their profile in the show notes. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen. Just like each of us, this show grows gently and through connection, so please help us spread the word. Share an episode or two with your softest friends and your hardest enemies. Until next time.